Vampire the Masquerade Winter's Teeth is a comic book series first published in August of 2020 by Vault Comics. This World of Darkness story focuses on two separate but intertwined tales written by Tim Seeley and spouses Teeny and Blake Howard. In the primary story, we follow a Brujah enforcer for the Prince of the Twin Cities,
Cecily
Bain, as she traverses the maze of politics in Prince Samantha's court. The second story, The Anarch's Tale, follows a coterie of anarchs making their way to the Twin Cities. As of this video, issue 9 is on the stands or the digital comic rack, with the finale coming soon. This week, I will give you my review of Volume 1, a collection of the first 5 issues released back in March of 2021. Before I start the review, I want to let you know that the bulk of this video should be spoiler-free, or at least as best as I can make it while still providing a review. I don't want to assume you've all read the story, so let's get into it. To find out if I'm sharp on Winter's Teeth, roll 2d10. Winter's Teeth is the World of Darkness / what used to be White Wolf's most recent foray into the comic world. The profoundly detailed World of Darkness offers plenty of fodder for complex stories, yet I believe this is the first foray back into the medium since the Moonstone comics of the early 2000s. Let me know in the comments if there's been another Vampire the Masquerade comic since the revised edition. Those earlier comics detailed some of the World of Darkness's established canon characters like Beckett, Theobald, Calabros, and others, and new stories with new characters. In Winter's Teeth, Vault explores new characters in the established lore of V5 that, to my knowledge, have never been explored in depth in any previous publication. The Twin Cities has found peace and stability, united under one prince, Samantha Marin. While impacted by the Second Inquisition, the prince was able to restore the Masquerade and return the Camarilla to its rightful place as the keepers. Kindred like
Cecily
Bain are often the dirty boots of the prince, stomping down those who would violate the prince's edicts and traditions.
Cecily
Bain, former anarch and general malcontent, doesn't want any of the reward associated with her reputation. She's plenty satisfied to operate outside the Camarilla system of prestation, until a longtime associate and member of the Primogen Council, Calderwent, strongly cautions her to take the prince's offer and sire a new child. Along the way,
Cecily
he meets a caitiff named Alejandra, lurking in her domain or territory.
Cecily
Takes a shine to the young Kindred and draws her into the conspiratorial community of vampires in the Twin City. Over the 5 issues,
Cecily
and Allie learn how prophetic Calder's words are when the harmonious winter nights are set ablaze with death and destruction. In the World of Darkness, no vampire is to be trusted. While initially I found the character of
Cecily
to be a tad one-note, even with the humanizing elements the authors included, like her ailing, institutionalized sister, who she cares for and regularly visits, I grew to like the character more over the 5 issues. Her relationship with Allie the caitiff and her interactions with other kindred in the Twin Cities helped humanize her, if that's even remotely the correct term here. Additionally, the character of Allie grew more likable, if not more mysterious, as the story progressed. We do learn some interesting details of her origin, most of which just leave us with more questions at the end of Volume 1. Even more, I enjoyed the second story, The Anarch Tales, the tale of Colleen and Mitch Pendergrass, estranged husband and wife turned sire and thin-blood child, and their coterie. Reminds me of many sessions around the table with my friends. The character interplay adds a realistic dimension to the vampire coterie's classic concept of just trying to get by in the lowest circles of kindred society. To me, the relationship between these two stories makes the 5-issue collection worth the read. The authors of both stories did a delightful job capturing the personal horror of the World of Darkness and how every action, no matter how seemingly unimportant, can have tragic outcomes. At the end of this book, you'll find game content for your V5 Chronicle. I love that the producers included these, giving you little tastes of the Twin Cities and the unique characters of the domain. I'm sure some other company has done something similar to this before, but it's my first time seeing it. It adds to the value of the comics for Vampire the Masquerade players, both old and new. The pacing, tone, and artwork are fantastic as well. The art conveys the swift, animalistic nature of vampires and the darker aspects of the world. The tempo and fluidity of the story's progression kept my attention throughout. Interestingly, until my second read-through, I didn't realize that multiple artists were working on the two stories. Efforts to keep the visual style consistent through the entire first 5 issues paid off.
And now it's time for Nate's nitpicks.
While I enjoy the comic and the new content for Vampire the Masquerade, there are a few things I took exception to within the 5-issue story arc. This part might contain spoilers, so I won't be mad if you skip ahead in the video. First, Calderwent's power of blood manipulation. When I read through the first issue, I thought the images of this power were figurative, like we saw an artistic expression of the character's thoughts. It wasn't until I saw it again, and saw other characters reacting to it, that I realized it was happening in the reality of the comic. Honestly, I found the power incredibly confusing. I started questioning my game knowledge as if I'd missed this thaumaturgical power in some previous book or edition. It's a blood sorcery, thaumaturgy, power called Shape of the Sanguine Sacrament, created for this series. I gotta say, I think it's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. It's a power that lets you control blood and make simple or complex forms out of it through telekinesis. Basically, you make globs of blood float around in the air and make disturbing images with it. Aside from making creepy imagery out of blood, the only actual use for the power I can find is breaking the Masquerade. It's like the most pointless flex ever. This is my consistent complaint about all the disciplines created for the comics. They are either super specialized to justify things characters are doing in the story, overpowered for their relative level, or just plain useless and redundant. Second, the wolves in sheep's clothing ghoul hunter things. Yeah, this is a broken concept on so many levels. Mortal hunters that kill vampires for their parts and use a strange and blasphemous form of mortal hedge magic to technomatically, I didn't make that word up, they did, graft vampiric body parts onto themselves so that they can gain the powers of vampires as some form of revenge for once being ghouled. Where's this sentence even going? I completely lost my train of thought. Seriously, the wolves in sheep's clothing are like flesh-crafted techno-zombies that murder kindred with ease, with necromancy powers and the secret to preserving vampiric parts after final death. Plus, they look like some Clive Barker tortured souls rejects with tubes and metallic parts sticking out of them. Cults of ghouls that hunt vampires for their blood have been a part of Vampire the Masquerade since the beginning. Superpowered ghouls who steal vampire organs because that's where the powers originate and magically MacGuffin them into their bodies? Yeah, that's a record scratch moment for me. My third gripe is the blood hunt's portrayal in this story. When the prince declares a blood hunt in the latter portion of the volume, it's written in a very 30 Days of Night sort of way. The city's kindred let their beasts out, shed their humanity, and take to the streets like wild dogs chasing a rabbit. Distinctly, the kindred of the city give in to their beasts and maraud across town. But I gotta tell you, that's kind of silly for about 50 reasons. Here's just a few. Humanity? Unless every vampire in the city is a debased, inhumane murder machine, the imposed morality of the Camarilla doesn't foster this behavior. Now, the 5th edition handles humanity a bit differently, but the concepts are essentially the same. The higher the humanity, the more humane you appear. That's because the higher the humanity, the more humane you are. This is the fine line between the Camarilla and the Sabbat. The blood hunt isn't some built-in excuse to shed that humanity and adopt savagery. The Masquerade. Yeah, pale, clawed nightmares surfing down the highway on the tops of vans is a pretty obvious concern for the whole let's not attract the Second Inquisition thing. The ceiling-crawling Nosferatu. I get it. Dramatic effect. This gripe is more about the scene than the actual blood hunt and how it's portrayed. My eyes rolled so hard, I fell out of my chair when I saw the ceiling-crawling Nosferatu. Lastly, and most importantly, the blood hunt is taken back by the prince. I hate to be the one to well actually over here, but the law of no backsies applies to the blood hunt. You can't just turn it on and off. Perhaps this is more of a gripe with the blood hunt portrayal in V5, but you can't reverse a blood hunt. No, never. Kindred might ignore the edict, Elders might stand in opposition of the call, the hunted might find a path to safe exile, but the hunted kindred may never return to the domain. Even a conclave won't reverse the edict. A justicar may determine the hunt was egregious enough to threaten the prince's standing and status, even potentially leading to a prince being deposed. Even that doesn't remove the blood hunt. Here's some quotes. Once you're hunted in the Twin Cities, you're hunted in that domain forever. Sorry,
Cecily.
Bain, those established rules are essential because they give the punishment heft and real danger, both for the hunted and the prince who calls the hunt. The rules of the sect are based on tradition. Without these traditions, you don't have a sect. Plus, there are plenty of better options in the arsenal of the prince for a situation like the one that plays out in this story. I'll let you read it for yourself and see if you agree. My final grade for Vampire the Masquerade Winter's Teeth is 3 dots out of 5. I relished the artwork, the in-game content at the back, some cool characters, and the story's pacing. I don't care for a few of the powers and story elements of the volume. I wasn't wild about the powers and the cult created for the story, and what I believe is an incomplete understanding of the Camarilla and the laws and traditions of the sect. All in all, I don't think that the negatives of Winter's Teeth outweigh the positives for me, and I'll undoubtedly continue reading when I can find issues at my local comic shop. Plan on seeing my review for Volume 2 once it's available in stores. What did you think of Winter's Teeth? Am I totally off base with my assessment? Leave me a comment below with your thoughts. Also, if you have ideas for things I should review in future videos, let me know. If you want to check out Winter's Teeth, use my link below to download it from drivethroughcomics.com and help my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Cecily.
Let's turn this son of a bitch on. Looky here, boy. Check, check. Testing, testing. Time for the remote.